Welcome to another NCIXPC Systems edition of NCIX Tech Tips. This, my friends, is the IR-57, which you might have noticed uses a bit of a different naming scheme than you've ever seen before. Well, we needed it to be less confusing. So the I stands for Intel CPU, the R means it uses a Radeon graphics card, 5 means the performance class is around in the middle, so it goes from 1, 3, 5, 7 all the way up to 9, and the 7 simply means it's the 7th Intel Radeon system released in this CPU cycle. It's priced at around $1,200, but the concept for this system is something a little different from what we've seen before. So it was based on polling customers themselves and asking, well, hey, you've got a bit of a weird configuration there. You've got a super value-oriented motherboard, you've costed down and gone for sweet spot memory, you've gone for a less expensive case, you've done all these things, you know, decent quality but not over-the-top air cooler, and you've put in the biggest graphics card you possibly could and then a power supply to support it. What's up with that? And people invariably said, well, I just want more graphics quality. I don't necessarily mind if I don't have the best sound quality. I'm not necessarily going to overclock because GPU is king when it comes to gaming performance. So I just want the best graphics card I can get and then a box to put around it. And then I might even upgrade that graphics card again. So I do need it to be a little bit future-proof. So we're going to call this concept the min-max. It's the minimum of what you need to get the maximum GPU horsepower just for gaming. The last thing that folks said is that they don't necessarily care about the looks. If it can look decent and not cost a ton of money, great, but they're not going to spend a ton of money on what is, in their mind, effectively a box to house all the components that just at least has decent airflow so that everything lasts a long time and stays cool. So hence the utilization of the Enermax I-Vector case. This is a white case, as you might expect from something with an I at the beginning of the name of it, and is pretty basic, so it's pretty lightweight. It has at least a fairly striking look to it without being completely over the top. So the front has 3 5¼ bays that can be toollessly removed, lots of ventilation, so you can't necessarily see it from your angle, but there, if I tilt it to the side, you can see that many of these are open for airflow, and then there's also this mesh right here in the front. It has an optimized right side panel, so you can see this bulge right here. It's not the only bulge you can see probably, but you know, this bulge is for cable management, and that allows you to, without making the case unnecessarily wide and using up more material, manage your cables going from your power supply up to your 8-pin connector on your CPU and all of that good stuff. On the left-hand side, we've got a smoked window. This is probably my favorite thing about this case. It makes it look quite a bit more dark and mysterious inside, in spite of the otherwise whiteness of it. So it provides a nice little contrast. Then we move up to the top where we find, yes, built-in fan control. That is a really nice feature to have, whether you want a no-frills, no-gimmick case or not. You might find yourself using that a fair bit. 2 USB 2.0 ports, 2 USB 3.0 ports, microphone and headphone jacks, as well as power and reset switches. And finally, a little bit more ventilation up here with some nice filters on them. So those are foam filters on the inside. At the back, you're going to find probably one of the most bare-bones I/O configurations you've seen on an NCIXPC. And this is thanks to the Z87K motherboard from ASUS. It's part of the whole concept of min-max, where it's the minimum motherboard that can actually still overclock that 4670K all right, but it doesn't have really any extras to speak of. We've got 2 PS2 ports, I guess that's extra, HDMI, DVI, and VGA. 4 USB 2.0 ports, 2 USB 3.0 ports, and 5.1 audio. I've had people argue with me before that that's not 5.1 audio. Yes, it is. You can reconfigure them. Or you can use it as headphones, line in or line out or whatever, and a microphone in, which is what I think most people are more likely to use it for. And then, of course, contrasting with the rest of the back of the system, that beefy 280X graphics card from AMD. So finally, there's a 120mm cooling fan, some handles for pulling the side panels off, and it is time to get inside the I-Vector. My hand is stuck. Ow. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is pull on that there handle, open up that there case. Actually, surprisingly solid build quality. The punch out of the bulge on the window actually does help a little bit with that with respect to flex. So color me impressed. For a value case, this ain't half bad. All right. So inside we find, as I mentioned before, the Z87K. So it's reliable, but a little bit bereft of extra features, except if you wanted PCI slots. It's actually got not PCIe, 3 PCI slots. Under the cooler right here is an Intel Core i5-4670K, which is the popular gaming CPU choice of our day, and that was part of the whole min-max concept. So it's the bang for the buck CPU, max graphics card, and minimum of everything else, which I would love to tell you about, but the teleprompter hasn't moved in quite some time. And this is why I don't believe in relying on that stuff. All right, so for the CPU cooler, we've got the white cluster CPU cooler, which is a nice quad heat pipe cooler with, you know, a tower design and can support up to 2 fans. It's got a 120mm cooling fan on it, and it still looks quite good. So in spite of the fact that the system isn't necessarily built to look amazing, it still manages to do so, and the NAXN power supply doesn't hurt. It's a great value, so it's only a 650-watt model because we're not expecting this customer to ever go SLI or Crossfire, but we do want to build in support for future GPUs. You never know how much power they're going to consume. Things tend to be all over the place from generation to generation, and okay, a little bit of money was wasted throwing in some white LEDs because, you know, you get this far and it already looks great. You might as well make it look great. I mean, even the non-modular power supply doesn't hurt things much because with the cable management built into the case and the flat black cables, it still looks pretty good. So there's 8 gigs of 1866 Radeon memory running in the system. 8 gigs is still the gaming sweet spot, with upcoming games asking for 6 gigs as a minimum though. That may be changing, so you might consider an upgrade to 16 gigs, but then again, it does still have 4 memory slots, so you will be able to do that in the future. It should be noted, guys, that just because it's Radeon memory doesn't mean that it won't run on an Intel platform. For the SSD, there's an M5S from Plextor that is a premium brand. I do still believe that a good quality SSD is important if you want it to last a long time, and this system is designed to last for multiple GPU upgrades. Speaking of GPU upgrades, it has probably the best GPU we've ever seen included in a $1,200 system. So this is an ASUS Direct CU II R9 280X. It comes with free games, it comes with the Tahiti core, it comes with 3 gigs of GDDR5 memory, making it suitable for up to around 2.5K gaming in modern titles, and it is extremely well built. This is a non-reference card, so I would expect it to last for a very long time, running cool and quiet and reliably. Coolly, quietly, and reliably. Cool, quiet, and reliable. Whichever you prefer. So conclusion-wise, I don't think there's much left to say. This is what people asked for. This is what's being delivered. It comes with a few free games, so you get Crysis 3, Far Cry 3, and Blood Dragon, as well as Radeon Never Settle Gold that comes with this particular graphics card. Although remember, guys, the games are always subject to change, and there's, of course, the usual NCIXPC peripheral deals, which you can check out in the link in the video description. Is this necessarily the machine I would build? I don't know. I would probably go for something slightly more premium with respect to better sound or, you know, better network card implementation or better aesthetics or whatever else. With that said, the aesthetics of the system turned out pretty darn well considering everything. Maybe more expansion. There's a lot of PCI slots on this motherboard in particular versus most new cards coming out in PCIe format as opposed to PCI. But if you're looking for the most graphics muscle with the lowest cost, it's not a bad option. Don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this from NCIX.com.